So I am the Erin half of Erin and James Real Estate, and this video will cover 5 reasons why you would want to do a medium-term rental instead of a short-term rental. So either why you would move it into that format or why you would just skip short-term rentals altogether and just go straight to medium-term rentals. Before I get started, if you like this content and you want more of it, please like and subscribe. That helps us know what you're responding to. Also, I will put in links in the notes for our website, our podcast, and also this book. And this book is useful if you're looking for a more curated piece that just has everything in it that you need to know to do a medium-term rental. If you're trying to find this, it's on Amazon. My name is Erin Spradlin. The name of the book is American Nomads, Finding and Renting to Remote Workers. And again, it's on Amazon. It's both in paperback and in Kindle, so whatever you prefer. And there's checklists and stuff in the back, as well as just a general overview of the best way to do medium-term rentals. Okay, so the first reason, the number one reason that I tell my clients that they would want to consider a medium-term rental, especially if they've come in and they're just like gung-ho about short-term rentals, the number one reason why I tell them is property management. So when you have a property manager on a short-term rental, if they're doing it right, they are going to charge you between, I would say, 15 and 30% to do that. And I know that's a big range, but it just kind of depends on the quality of the property management and how much staff they have. And they should be handling everything so like it is completely hands-off. But I know a lot of people that just in general are not happy with their property management, whether that's a long-term or whether it's short-term. But you know, that is an option if you want to be totally hands-off. However, it's more expensive. So people sometimes when they come to me, they run their numbers with property management costs and they make the assumption that it's the same as a long-term rental. So a long-term rental, you would get charged between 8 and 12% for the property management. But again, for a short-term, you get charged between 15 and 30%. So that really adds up. And it's also kind of hard to keep the good ones around. As people get really good at short-term rental property management, they tend to expand, and then you see the quality of property management sometimes go down. And so that is often a problem for our clients as well. So one way to skip that is to do a medium-term rental. And the advantage to that is like with a short-term rental, if you're trying to get people in, that's a lot of work. Like you're responding to a lot of emails. There's a lot of turnover every week or every 2 or 3 days. You're having to clean, you're having to communicate with them, you're having to make sure that it's set up for the next person, you're having to let them know how to get in. People love to send a note, whether text or email, to ask how they get there from the airport, even though this is something they could totally look up themselves. Regardless, you have to answer that stuff, and it takes a lot of time with a short-term rental. But the benefit of a medium term is that someone's coming in for minimum 30 days. But a lot of times people come in for 60, 90, half a year. And so you're really only dealing with them for when you're trying to acquire them and get them to sign the lease and stay with you, and then also check in. But for the most part, from my experience, you don't hear from them a lot after that. So it's really nice. And in my opinion, what I always tell my clients is like, you do not need a property manager for this. You can handle it. We just need to get you a relationship with a cleaner, which is easy enough to find on Facebook or in real estate forums, like who's a really good cleaner. We need to get you a smart lock and then just some custom language down. But you should not pay for property management on it because it's just really not that much work, and you can completely do it remotely, and there's no reason to give away that kind of money. So when you're running, if you're trying to figure out if it's a best investment, you want to look at what you're going to have to pay in property management for a short-term rental versus just doing it for yourself in medium term, and then what the different rates are going to turn out. So that's number one. Number two is that I kind of covered this, but it's less communication. So again, Airbnb, I think when it showed up, people were so excited about it. I mean, it was like a means to get out of your 9 to 5. It was a second source of income. I know for us, like it really helped us pay off student loans. We paid off car debt. We ended up financing a lot of our honeymoon for it, and we bought another property all within 2 years of starting Airbnb. So it was just like this magical thing where we had all this money. But I always say it's not free money. It is actually quite a bit of work, especially now too, because I think Airbnb guests have come to have higher standards. And so they really want the place very nice. They want to hear from you all the time. You're expected to do reviews. You're supposed to respond to them in 24 hours. And it can just take a lot of time and be a lot of energy if you're doing it yourself. So if you move into the medium term rental, again, you're really only communicating with them. You have like your responsibilities at that point are doing the listing, communicating with them when they're looking for a property, and then usually like the first I would say a few days before they check in, and then on the check-in day, you are kind of working with them to get them set up and whatnot. So it's actually much less work, and so it's really nice. It's way fewer emails and communication and back and forth. So the third thing on that is cleaning, and this is similar to Airbnb. When you're renting a short-term rental and you're bringing people in, you often charge them a nightly rate and then you charge a cleaning fee on top of them. Same thing with a medium-term rental. So you're going to have kind of your base price. Let's say it's $2,000 for the month, but then you're going to put a non-refundable deposit and a cleaning fee on them as well. But again, you're not managing a cleaner all the time, nor are you having to go in and clean all the time. You're just doing it for the turnovers between stays, which at the most would be 30 days a month. But hopefully in a more, from our perspective, a lot of people come in for 2 months, 6 months, etc. So it really isn't even a 30-day turnover. It typically tends to be longer stays. So I really like that because I'm not having to go in there and clean, which I do not enjoy, and I'm also not having to manage anyone else and making sure that their schedule works out, and that, like, sometimes when you have turnover on short terms, it's really tight. Like, people have to leave at 11, no one else can check in until 3 or 4, just like a hotel, because you have to squeeze someone in to do that. The way we build out our medium terms is we just put a day or two in between, and we make sure the cleaner can get in there. We know well in advance when they're going to be out, and so it's easy to schedule. So we do that. I think a different option too is to put the cleaning fee. So say it's refundable cleaning fee, but then ask them if they want to do the cleaning themselves. And this is something we've experimented with a little bit. I recommend it because a lot of medium-term renters leave your place very, very clean, and so there actually isn't like a huge need to have a cleaner in there. You need someone to come in and to wash the sheets and the towels, to clean out the fridge, to make sure that there's, not dirt and stuff on the floors. But a lot of times the medium-term renters will do that. And so if you just say, like, you could hold $400, you could keep $400, that's not this non-refundable cleaning deposit, if you just go through and do the laundry yourself and clean out the refrigerator, clean out the stove, etc. You can give them a checklist and then also make them put a video on it. But I've considered that only because, again, usually medium-term renters are not that dirty. They're pretty clean, and also sometimes it can just be challenging to schedule cleaners. Now, again, much less of an issue when you're doing a medium-term rental and it's every 30 to 90 to 120 days versus when you're counting on someone to be there every 2 or 3 days, which is more work on the short-term rental side. So that's another thing I like. Okay, less turnover. That kind of fits in with the communication and the cleaning, but that is lesson 4, is just that there's less turnover and cleaning, and so you just don't have to deal, it's less of a job, it's less of a commitment than a short-term rental, which is very much feels like a real job. Okay, and then finally, what I really like about it is that it's elevated money. So people don't necessarily understand this. I mean, you definitely have a bigger buy-in when you're thinking about real estate investing. You're having a bigger buy-in in the beginning because you have to furnish the place. And so, if you're furnishing a 2-bedroom, depending on where you furnish it from, it can cost you like $10,000. A lot of people ask me where I do my furnishing. I do it all on Amazon because it gets delivered, it's easy to put together, and you can pick the range as well as read all the reviews, so you know what's comfortable, what's not, and it's really easy to get desks, beds, mattresses, all that stuff in there. I mean, you have to be comfortable with Jeff Bezos and everything he's doing, but it is a really convenient service. So it's Amazon level quality furniture for couches, desks, beds, everything, and that is how I do it. But that's an upfront cost. But then after that, your rents are between what you would get for a long term and what you would get for a short term. So I like to, with the short term, sometimes we will say you can get 2 to 3 times the return on your investment if you do a short term rental full time. So just for quick math, we would say you'd get $1,000. So you would get $3,000 on a $1,000 property. Now, for a medium term, you are furnishing it up front, and then I usually say 25 to 50% more. So you would get on that same $1,000 property, you'd get between $1,250 and $1,500 for that property each month. And then again, just like short term, medium term has seasonality. So you're going to charge more in the summer than you would in the winter months. In fact, a tip here, a bonus tip, is that you want to try So a couple things. If you have a short-term rental, a medium-term renter is a really good thing to do between October and March, at least in Colorado. Those are kind of our dead months in the city. So you're going to pull in fewer short-term renters at that point, and you're also just not going to get as good of a return. So a lot of people like to, instead of dealing with short-term renters, they just put in one person or a couple of people for that stretch, that October to March, and they do a longer rental strategy because they're just not pulling in enough to make the short-term work. On the flip side of that, though, if you can avoid putting in a new renter during those months, if you can secure someone in, like, let's say September, that's going to carry into the spring, you will make more money monthly on that. So anyways, you make more money on those medium-term rents than you do a long-term rent, but you make less money than you would with a short-term rent. However, the benefit to that is that you're not doing as much work either, so it's really nice. And my final thing that I just love about this is that they come in, they think they're only going to rent for a month or two, but a lot of times they come to really like the city, they really like your place, they get comfortable, and so they end up extending the rent a lot longer. So, you know, they come in, they think they're going to have 60 days, but then they're there 6 months later. And they just tend to be great clients. You don't hear from them a lot. They pay on time. They typically have really good jobs and good credit. And then again, you have that extension. A lot of the time you have that extension. It's not a guarantee, but it's just a thought and something that's really helpful. Or not really helpful, but just like less work. Okay, if you enjoyed this, again, please do a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out to us about real estate or investing, we're at Erin and James Real Estate, linked below. And if you want a book, it is on Amazon, American Nomads. Erin Spradlin is my name. All right, thanks so much for watching this content.